everyone, I'm Katie Wilson, your bi-weekly host, and I would like to welcome you to What the Fandom Episode 3. Episode 3. Now, I bet some of you are expecting some witty or not-so-witty diatribe about trilogies, or how Return of the King, the third installment of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, while winning Best Picture, had way too many endings. But I'm not gonna do that. When I think about the number 3, I think about trios, trifectas, and the Triforce, 3 parts of a triangle in perfect alignment. When I think about perfect trios, my mind immediately jumps to the excellent character balance of Harry, Ron, and Hermione, or the power balance of Ventus, Terra, and Aqua. But in all good trios, the sum is greater than its parts. So, for episode 3, a shout out to some of the trios known by their group name: the Charmed Ones, the Powerpuff Girls, the Three Amigos, the Three Stooges, Josie and the Pussycats, the Three Musketeers, and the Mouseketeers too. In this episode, we are going to change it up a bit. No fan cast this week, but we will take a dive into character development with Disney and Marvel alum Francisco Herrera. And we will take a look at the comic history of Loki with resident comic guy George Zotti. As always, a new week brings a new trope, and I start this week with a flashback to June 22nd, 1970 for This Week in Comic History. In 1970, Batman needed a new villain. I imagine the greatest comic minds got in a room to come up with the most original, unexpected, and creative villain rivaling that of the Joker to make an appearance in Detective Comics number 400. The character that was introduced to Gotham and Batman was Manbat. That's right. They inverted the Caped Crusader's name. Now, while maybe not original, Manbat has surprisingly had some staying power. When Frank Robbins and Neil Adams imagined the genetically altered Dr. Robert Kirkland Langstrom, I doubt even they knew Manbat would survive to see Infinite Crisis, The New 52, Rebirth, Flashpoint, and both Injustice video games. It is clear that there was something about the character design that resonated. Francisco Herrera has worked and developed more characters across Disney, Marvel, and his own publications than I could list. So I'm happy to let him talk about it and give you some tips on how to design the best characters.
Hi guys, my name is Francisco Herrera, and I'm a character designer, a comic book and art director. I've been working on comic books with Spider-Man, Marvel. I have my own Disney toy line called Disney Shorts. I've been doing animation for character design with DreamWorks and Warner Brothers, and also art direction for theme parks and live events for Disney, MTV, and Nickelodeon. And today I'm going to talk to you about how to create a character from scratch. How to create or design a character from scratch, it always starts with the story. As anything in life, it's about a story. Storytelling is the most important thing. So if you want to create a character, you have to get a profile of the character. It's really important. So how old is he? It's a human, it's a robot, it's a chicken, it's a monster, or the age, the size, favorite books, movies, as much information as you can get. What's the perception of the character by itself and how other people perceive the character. It's going to interact with other characters. So the story, the script is the most important thing when you design a character. Because once you have the information, then you can get all the reference and the assets to really start creating that. But let's say that we have the story, because we can do a complete video about just creating the profile of a character before jumping to the design. But I'll say that if we have the profile of the character or the story of the character, how I create a character from scratch once I have that, I start playing. First, I get as much as reference as I can about the character. So if I'm doing a superhero, I'm gonna try to get as much information of superheroes that I have or that I like from the history of movies or comic books or independent comic books or movies, animation, whatever. It helps me to develop a cool superhero. So I get reference and I put it on my computer. I have folder with all my reference, and I open everything there and see what catch me, what catch my attention of the things that I like on superheroes. Once I have everything there, I start sketching in front of all my reference. And for me, silhouette is the most important thing. And I'm a really cartoony guy, so I distort a lot of the anatomy. So suppose that the rule says that a good character design you can identify by the silhouette. So it's like if you know Mickey Mouse by the silhouette, you know Bart Simpson by the silhouette, you know Bugs Bunny by the silhouette. You have so if you can get a cool iconic silhouette that can be recognized, like that's my character. It's a really good start. No details, no props, no nothing, just shape. What type of anatomy? What's the body language?
That was just a taste of all things character design. Francisco's full video will be up next week. For this week's trope, I'm bringing something back from the dead. That's it. That's the trope. Coming back from the dead. And I don't mean the person you thought was dead but really wasn't dead, but resurrection or rebirth in all its glory. Dating back to the early Greeks, some of the first written examples we have of resurrection are godly. Achilles, Alcmene, Castor, and Heracles all died and came back more powerful than we could possibly imagine. Perhaps that's where it started, where the ancient Greeks finished a story and thought, you know, that Achilles story was actually pretty popular. Let's bring him back, but this time make him a god, and maybe we can have a bunch of variant covers at different price points too. Since the ancient Greeks and the advent of popular storytelling, resurrection has been used as plot points and for reboots. The most resurrected genre certainly is horror movies. Our antagonists die every film and come back for some reason in the next 1 or 2 or 3. Jason, Freddy, Mike Myers, no, not that one. Yes, that one. And Pinhead are all great characters that refuse to go away. Nobody does this better than comics, though. Now, it would probably be easier to list off characters who stayed dead rather than the ones who came back, but the greatest of all monetary returns was the death and resurrection of Superman. Superman died and was resurrected into 4 new characters, each with their own price point. Not to be outdone, Marvel's new TV star Loki has died a number of times, like several hundred. Here is comic pro George Zotti to provide a brief recap of the weird comic history of Loki.
Hi fans, my name is George. I'm the Exhibitor Relations Manager here at Fan Expo, and I love comics. I've loved comic books since I was a kid, and I've worked around comic books since I was 14 years old, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about, is comic books. With Loki about to hit your TV screens, here's some comic background you might be interested in. Now, Loki started all that avenging. Way back in Avengers issue number 1, Loki tricks the Hulk into thinking the Avengers are bad and need to be destroyed. And of course, the Avengers think the Hulk is bad. So lots of superhero fighting happens, and then the Avengers convince the Hulk that no, Loki's bad. So, no Loki, no reason for Earth's mightiest heroes to band together to defeat the trickster god. Asgard assemble. Okay, now this is one of my absolute favorites. Thor 364 to 366. Loki has so many schemes to take over Asgard, blow it up, kill Thor, replace Odin, everything he could possibly think of. But this time he has the perfect plan. Turn his brother Thor into a frog. Now, of course, it doesn't really work because Thor bands together the small animal world and attacks Loki and defeats him. But I mean, it's such a great plan. You would think that it would have just been foolproof. No. Now, in Journey into Mystery 622, Fear itself was part of a big epic crossover that was going through Marvel at the time. But Loki is dead yet again. But this time, and here's the key, he's reincarnated as a sulky teenager who spends a lot of time on his phone. Now, going into it, you think, oh, Kid Loki, that's kind of ridiculous. You know, how is that going to work? But this is some of actually the best Loki stuff, where Loki actually starts to grow as a person a little bit. Yeah, I mean, of course it doesn't last, but that's the way the comic books work. But I mean, when you think about it a lot, Kid Loki, that's some pretty scary stuff.
So we close another episode of What the Fandom. Thanks as always to our guests and to you for watching. I'm Katie Wilson. You can catch me on Twitter at @TheKatieWilson. If not, I'll see you here in 2 weeks.